All right, folks, so we've got some pretty interesting stuff going down here. Interesting to say the least. So I did a video something like 5 days ago, maybe less, maybe a bit longer. I don't remember precisely how long ago it was. But I did a video. I saw this tweet coming from what stemmed from, and you're looking at it on the screen right now, a congressional candidate whose name is Joshua Collins. He's running in, I believe, the 10th district of Washington. And he tweeted out saying, I swear I'm going to get on Oprah before Kyle Kulinski or Jimmy Dore have me on, LMAO. So he's been on, I saw that he was on John Idarola's show, The Damage Report, for an interview. I think he was on for an interview on some other channels as well. And so, as a candidate, he wants to get the word out, and that totally makes sense. But as you guys know, Kyle Kulinski doesn't do many interviews. And in my previous video, I told you, I was like, I'm going to give credit to Jimmy Dorn that, he does actually do these candidate interviews. And remember, he was one of the first people to have AOC on as well. And that's just kind of one of those things. That's probably, the only good thing, but that's kind of mitigated by a lot of other forces now. But, that was, the only good thing that he would do was that. But, you know how he is now. But anyways, so he sends that out. Then another congressional candidate responds. Her name's Seema Hernandez. She's running, I believe, for Senate in Texas, I believe it is. And she responded to that tweet saying, all you got to do is email Ron Placone to be on the Jimmy Dore show. Kyle Kulinski is a totally different story. He likes the sound of his own voice. So that is obviously a pretty, I don't know, just a funny shot, I guess you would say. Now, in fairness to her, I saw that she tweeted out saying that she said, to be fair, or to be clear, something like that, I also like the sound of Kyle's voice, so she's saying, I like his show and all, so she wasn't really trying to do anything like that. It's just a tough position for these candidates. Now, what I have to say is it's certainly not a good strategy, nor a good look, nor is it really something that, in a view of a campaign, really should be something that you should do if you're running for Congress, is to, be tweeting out shots at progressive indie media. I just don't think that's really the way to go. I just don't think that's the way to go. I think that you have to avoid that at all costs, simply due to professionality reasons. I just don't think you want to do that. That's just kind of alienating allies and things of that nature, and it's not a good look. It's just not a good look. Now, there's a lot of politics that goes into this, okay, and we're actually we'll watch the video first before we get into that, because Kyle Kulinski did actually respond to this, funny enough. Shout out to, I forgot who it was, someone DM'd you on Twitter giving me the timestamp and telling me about this. So he was doing his Kyle and Corin, and he brings this up. It's pretty interesting. So let's go ahead and check this out.
Why doesn't he interview me or whatever? Mm-hmm. And it's faster, you gotta be quicker,
smarter.
You gotta have better ball control. You gotta be smarter. You gotta know how to make assists.
But it just goes to show that you can't I don't know, the point I'm trying to make, people think that they could just do something that they see other people doing, they're oh, I could do a political show on YouTube,
good luck.
You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of dead air you have to fill. There's a lot of content, you're talking to yourself.
No, I've seen, it's so funny because I've seen people take shots at me. I've seen people take shots at me, by the way, talking about oh, why doesn't he interview me or whatever? Mm-hmm. And it's yo, my dude, go look at my channel. Go look at the past 2 years. How many interviews do you see, dog?
Yeah.
How many interviews are there? Just tell me how many there are. 0. There's fucking 0. So what do you mean? And then somebody replied and was well, he likes the sound of his own voice. There's no way I could have done what I did. There's no way I'd be in the position I'm in if I didn't like the sound of my own voice and if I couldn't shut the fuck up. Yeah. What are you saying? Do you understand what you just said? Obviously, in order to do what I have to fucking listen to myself talk, more hours than anybody in human history except Rush Limbaugh has had to do. Do you understand that?
Which is tough to do because I don't listen.
Yes, I hate the way I fucking sound. I despise it. I think it's the worst fucking thing in the world because I'm so sick of it because I've done it all the time.
But you got a compliment today. We went to our spot, Chicken Joe's, and we got these.
All right, so so he kind of goes off there for a second on Joshua Collins. Then in response, it looks like Seema's like, little whatever you want to call it, little jab at him definitely did hit like a personal level for him. It seems to be the case that it really hit him in a sort of weak spot. But while obviously it's like a bit of a jab or whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to title it, but I don't think she really meant it in that way. Again, she did clarify, saying that she basically, she also likes the sound of his voice. But so apparently there was some politics going on with Seema Hernandez. I didn't even know this, but I guess she ran last cycle, and that like the Justice Democrats had to make a pick between, okay, are we going to support Seema Hernandez, who I think is like a socialist or close to that, in the Texas Senate race, or are we going to, support Beto O'Rourke, or I guess just kind of stay neutral, but more like, supporting Beto O'Rourke kind of thing. And so there's a lot of politics that goes into this kind of stuff, because at that point you have to start weighing in, okay, what shot does she really have at winning, if any? It's a Texas Senate race. That's a pretty tough thing to win, especially for someone who's, at least from what I've seen, a socialist, but if not borderline socialist. That's a kind of a tough thing to do. So I guess there was some weird stuff going on with that. If you know more about that, definitely write down below in the comment section. So I'm sure Kyle, but as you guys know, Kyle doesn't do many interviews. He doesn't do many interviews. Now, when he says that he's done 0 interviews in the past 2 years, again, I'm kind of neutral on this, because I see how there are candidates, progressive candidates, who are like, hey, I need help getting the word out about my campaign, and your platform would be extremely helpful in doing this. But then I also see the side of like Kyle just, that's not his thing, that's not his style. He doesn't want to go through the hassle of that kind of stuff because he just doesn't like doing it. I get that side as well. So I kind of see both sides here. So I'm neutral here. But just to be like a, sort of objective fact checker here, it's not 0, dude. Like there are quite a few of these. So there's, this one, this interview with AOC that was back in 2018. So it's just a little bit over a year ago that he did with AOC. Here's one with Kenyella Ng, who I believe, is running in Hawaii. And then there's this one with Amy Villela. So he's certainly done interviews. He's certainly done a couple interviews. So it's not 0. From what I could remember, these are the 3. Now, there may be more candidate interviews that he did. And if so, you can leave it down below in the comments section. But I remember these 3 because I remember him doing them. So it's not 0. That's just not factually correct. Now, is it true that he doesn't really like doing interviews, or does he, not really do many interviews? Yeah, that's of course factually correct, of course. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, let me know. I'm curious to know where you guys fall on this, because I could see it from the perspective of like a progressive candidate, just trying to get the message out for their campaign, because obviously they're trying to win and they need help. But there's got to be some sort of a balance here. There's got to be some sort of a middle ground here that can be reached, in which there's some sort of a, mutually beneficial relationship or whatever. But, I don't know. And then again, the politics that plays in with the decisions of who to support and who not to support. And the person who DM'd this to me said that Kyle actually referenced this once again on a different stream, or in a different video of him liking the sound of his own voice. So it really struck a chord with him. Like, that's like, you know how you can say stuff that doesn't really piss someone off, like if you go, oh, you're dumb or something like that, like in a not bullying way, it's just kind of like a joking way. It's not her. But if you like say something that's like, oh shit, like that really struck a chord with him, and I'm surprised, because what's wrong with liking the sound of your own voice? And that's his reasoning and logic there. Yeah, like there's nothing wrong with liking the sound of your own voice, and B, it's a necessity if you're gonna do what Kyle Kulinski does. If you're gonna do what Kyle Kulinski, but I don't think that Seema was like, she was using it in a way to be super inflammatory, because again, she did clarify afterwards. So it's just, is it? Here's the question, okay, and you can leave your answers down below in the comment section. Is it a valid criticism for a progressive candidate running for office to air a grievance for Kyle not interviewing them in their candidacy, considering he has a very big platform, and that, they kind of need help getting their name out there. That's kind of the golden question here. So that's what we kind of have to figure out. Yeah, so I'm not really sure on that one, but that really did strike a chord with him. That little jab, it really did. He really did not seem to be fond of that. He was not happy about that at all, not one bit. But yeah, man, let me know your thoughts on all of this down below. I'm very curious to hear them.